it's happening in New York, New Jersey, or Long Island, hear about it with Joe Piscopo. Mornings, 6 to 10 on AM 970. The Answer.
Good morning. Piscopo in the morning on AM 970. The Answer. Great to have you here. We got the whole team here this morning. Matt and George are running the video. Appreciate you watching on AM970theanswer.com, on YouTube, and on Facebook. Cecilia's here, Matt is here, and Frankie Five Boroughs, and Al, and Susie on the road. Joe Lumber coming up with weather in a little while. David Windmiller, I had the privilege of actually flying with David Windmiller. He is just the number one stunt pilot in the country, an incredibly talented guy in the air. And I hesitated to call Dave and say, hey, can we talk about this chopper crash that happened on Sunday night? But he knows more about this than anybody, so he's kind enough to check in with us this morning. David, welcome to the show. Sorry the circumstances are a little rough, but we appreciate you joining us, my friend.
I appreciate to be here. Good morning.
Well, David, what do you think? Now, I know how good you are, and I see, I've seen you, and flying around for famous directors. You're the go-to stunt pilot, so you know about what can and cannot happen in those choppers. What do you think happened with this chopper crash on Sunday night?
I was flying and filming that night in an almost identical helicopter. The one we were flying in had two engines instead of one, otherwise pretty much identical. And we were on the same frequency talking to LaGuardia Tower, and we had actually just passed by each other, so traffic was pointed out to each of us. And I heard the Mayday Call just probably about 2 minutes later, and we saw him descending rapidly. And I relayed the message to LaGuardia and asked them to try and get some help. We were also one of the first ones on the scene, just flying above. As to what happened, it's very, very difficult to get into great details, a lot of speculation. He definitely had an engine failure. He was very clear about it. So engine failing in a helicopter is something that will definitely make you have to descend rapidly, but it doesn't make you crash.
Interesting. So, David, you're in the air on a Sunday night, and what kind of chopper was it? I mean, for laymen like myself, what kind of chopper was it? You had two engines. This one had one engine. What kind of chopper was it?
I was flying in an aircraft called a Twin Star.
Yeah,
is Aerospatiale, and the one that they were in is called an A-Star. And they're basically identical. Like I said, theirs has a single engine, and ours has two engines.
And in your professional opinion, easy to handle, safe aircraft, correct?
For an experienced pilot, yes, it's a very safe aircraft, very good track record, very low accident record.
Wow! And now, walk us through that again. So you're in the air, and were you doing stunt work, if I can ask, on Sunday night?
No, we were filming actually for a commercial. We were over Midtown Manhattan with a camera operator. And
wow! So you heard this, or did you see that the pilot in distress?
Well, we heard him on the radio with the Mayday Call. Just before that, we saw each other because we passed right by each other.
And everything looked okay at that point?
Yeah, it was absolutely normal flight. He was heading up the East River. And after the Mayday Call, we saw him descending out of altitude relatively rapidly. I didn't see, once he got lower, I was too far away to actually see contact with the water.
But you saw him start to come down. Did you sense, whoa, that somebody's in trouble? You could see it before you even heard the Mayday Call then? Wow.
No. I wasn't looking that way until I heard the Mayday Call. His Mayday Call was very, very clear and distinctive, and the tone of his voice, you knew he was in trouble.
Yeah. Did they hit? I mean, in your opinion, was it a crash? It didn't look, when you're looking at that Instagram video, it didn't look like it hit that hard, but that's easy for me to say. I mean, was the impact that strong, David?
It was a very hard impact from the video that I saw. Those helicopters that had what's called emergency pop-out floats on them.
Yeah.
So those floats are not normally blown up, but in an emergency, in time of an engine failure, pilot has a lever that he pulls, and it releases high pressure, either nitrogen or helium into the floats, and they expand, and they basically is. There have been many cases where helicopters have auto rotated into the water and no issue at all. In this particular case, that was not what happened.
So now, why didn't those things inflate, in your opinion?
Oh, they did inflate. Oh no, they were fully inflated.
When it came down, they were inflated when the chopper came down.
When I saw it, we flew right over it.
Yeah.
They were both inflated, but the helicopter was inverted. It was upside down, and the only thing you could see, people thought they were life rafts, but those were the actual floats inflated. No, they were both fully inflated.
But isn't that supposed to balance the chopper? And forgive me for being so ignorant here, David. I mean, you're the expert. I would think that once they're inflated, it would balance the aircraft. What made it turn upside down?
The way it contacted the water, it was not able to. It would be similar to a helicopter on skids. It's standing on two long supporting skids on the ground.
Yeah.
And if there were an instance where landing was made and it wasn't pointing directly forward, it was cockeyed in either direction, it would roll over. And floats were no different with the water. The water is not soft when you contact it. Pretty good rate of descent.
Yeah.
So it acts very much like the ground. It's just if it rolls over, it doesn't lay on its side. Once it rolls over in the water, it just continues to roll until it's inverted because the majority of the mass is up pretty high.
And we heard that the doors were open, so the water would have come in. Is that true, what we're hearing there?
Yes, that particular group, that's one of the main things that they advertised was to fly around with the doors open so people could get an experience.
And, David, you're such a good guy, man. And we had this, listen, I have such respect for you. I hate to even ask, and I don't want to be, it says early in the morning, I don't want to be graphic, but what exactly, do we know what happened? Because the pilot got out. Were they not able to, that's a 5-point seatbelt, I imagine, that you have in that particular aircraft, correct?
Well, that's going to be a topic that's going to unfold, and I don't really feel like I'm the one that should be revealing all of the details on it. But that particular harness, from what I understand and from what I've seen, is not something that someone can easily just get out of. It's not like a seatbelt where you pull a release. If it's the ones that I believe were in there, and I'm quite sure were, it's similar to a carabiner hook that a mountain climber uses.
Yeah.
And they don't release so quickly.
Do you think they? Do you think they survived the impact, David?
The impact, I'm sure they survived. I'm sure that people would have gotten hurt. It looked to me, at least, I wasn't there. I wasn't in the helicopter, but from the rate of descent, maybe been some damaged spinal injuries, but I'm certain that everybody survived the impact. There's no question about that.
Yeah. Then we were hearing that there was baggage that might have been put on the fuel line cutoff thing there, and I mean, does that make any sense to you when you heard that?
Again, it's one of these things you have to be careful what you say.
Yeah.
But I have never heard of that instance whatsoever in the A-Star. That there is certain models. There is a fuel valve that's lower, closer to the ground, but I've never heard of a case where there's a latch on it when it's in a full-on position, and I've never heard of a case where it's even possible for someone to knock it off. But anything can happen. I wasn't there.
David, being the expert professional that you are, and you don't have to comment on this, but does this company have a history of safety incidents? Can you comment on that?
I think it's all published. I think everybody knows it by now.
Okay.
The group, from what I understand, that was doing the flight is maybe a subsidiary of the company that that does the tours.
Right.
They do a lot of flights. It's a very, very busy company, so they have tremendous amount of data on them. But as far as accidents, I think all that data is kind of out there already.
David, I'll tell you, and listen, it was such a thrill for me to jump in that chopper and our friend Captain Frank's farm. You were kind enough to come out with your beautiful wife, man, and you handle that chopper like I tell you, I've never seen anything like it. You are such a professional. You do plane, you fly everything pretty much, David Windmiller, right?
I do. I fly jets. I fly little airplanes, helicopters.
Wow.
My love in this sport is aerobatics, and I flew competition for quite a number of years. I was on the U.S. team for the World Championship, and this year actually it looks like I'll be back on it. Kids are grown up now, so
This is great. And you've worked. I didn't want to mention any of the famous directors that you worked for because I know you like to keep that private. Can you mention them on the air?
I've worked on a number of major production films now. I'm working for a gentleman who owned the company for many years. He's an incredible pilot. His name's Al Cerullo from Hover Views. And he's getting a little bit older and starting to pass me some of the works over the last about 3 years.
Cool.
I've been getting into it more and more. Started out mostly with TV shows, but a couple of major productions. And I don't know. And then as far as credits, you start seeing, I guess, the name show up more and more.
Yeah, well, David, listen. You're one of the true professionals, and I know you're a go-to guy, and I know every pilot looks to David Windmiller as the ultimate expert out there. So I hesitated to call you this morning, man, and to say, hey, could you comment on it? Well, listen, we appreciate it because it's confusing for us, and for those of us who like to jump on the chopper and just hop out, we're a little concerned about it. So we more than appreciate your expertise on this, David, this morning on this, talking about this very tough subject.
Absolutely, and safety is number one concern. It has to be, but in all reality, it's a very, very safe form of transportation. Maintenance is a key issue, and safety is a key issue, and pilot training is another major issue. And if all those three aspects are there, it's really not even a concern at all. Compared to car accidents and over time period, if you crunch data, it's not even close.
Yeah.
So it's still relatively the most safe means of travel.
All right, David Windmiller, thank you, David. Hopefully we'll see you soon, my friend. Thanks for taking the time this morning.
An honor to be on your show. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, David. David Windmiller right there, 737 right there. And thanks to Rich Rofe, my buddy, for getting me to David Windmiller. These are great guys. These are great professionals. So tough subject, and didn't want to put them on the spot, but just curious to see exactly what happened.
Everybody knows this guy. Now, everybody knows he can do a radio show. Joe Piscopo. Mornings, 6 to 10 on AM 970. The Answer.